Live from New York, it's the show that thinks Wemby might have celebrated a little too much. A little too much, bro.
Not this side of the table. Really?
I'm happy for him. I like the emotion. But I think Jalen and Rick Brunson were watching that like, we got something for him. We didn't celebrate like that when we made the finals. It's first things first.
It was the Cavs.
On today's show, Myles Garrett is headed to Hollywood. Are the Rams the one and only SBOB team in the NFL this season? Also, 10 days until the World Cup. And just in the nick of time, Cristian Pulisic's scoring drought is over. Is Team USA clicking right when we need them to? And finally, the aforementioned very emotional Wemby is headed to the finals. And in about 20 minutes, I have to imagine Brew is going to put on a performance for the ages. I got to tell you, I'm a little resentful towards the Rams and Myles Garrett that they couldn't wait one day. Because now we have to wait an extra 20 minutes to see whatever Brew has in store. Wild's out today. He'll be back tomorrow. I'm Nick Wright alongside Chris Broussard, Greg Jennings, Danny Parkins. We start today with a blockbuster trade. Browns finalizing a deal to send two-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the Rams. The package includes LA sending Jared Verse, a 2027 first, a 2028 second, a 2029 third. My initial reaction, we should always pay attention when teams move money around. The Browns did a little contract thing. They're like, nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. We'd never trade him. He's traded. Myles Garrett's production the last half decade, it's unparalleled as far as longest 12-plus sack season streaks. It's him at number one, the great Lawrence Taylor and Micah Parsons tied at number two. Greg Jennings, you were pressed into early service today, so I will start with you. What was your initial reaction to the trade?
Well, I was walking down the streets of beautiful New York City.
It is a nice day.
It's a beautiful day.
Wonderful day.
And I look at my phone, I'm like, oh, shoot. And everybody's looking at me, and I'm like,
oh, you literally
said it out loud.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's one of those moments that we all, and Wild spoke to this when you were doing Brew's Ballot last year. All the sacks that Myles Garrett was accumulating, it was like, man, but kind of goes for nothing.
Right.
He's not on a good team. Wish he was on a good team. When big-time players have the opportunity to play meaningful football or meaningful games, this is when we see who and what they are really about. Now, again, Myles Garrett, tremendous talent. We are Hall of Famer already. But this trade, it signifies we are in it to win it. Period. Stop. The Rams are the team to beat. When you go out and you go and get a player like Myles Garrett, and you're willing to part ways with all these picks, and Jared Verse,
who's an excellent player,
who's a young player, dominant defensive player of the year on a rookie contract. He was an impact player on that defense, on your team, on that side of the ball, and all the moves that you made to solidify your secondary, which you felt like that hindered you from getting to that next place you really wanted to go to, which was the Super Bowl. This is why Les Snead has been like, in their words, not mine, F them picks. Yep. No, because they go after the players that will make us all say, shoot, skip the picks.
No, they're about winning now. Absolutely. I know people might point to the draft and, you drafted a backup quarterback that's not going to play. But even in that, they still are about winning now. And I agree with what you said. Like, they are the favorites. They were the favorites anyway.
They were the favorites. Now they're the
definitive favorites. And last year, we know how great the offense is. If Stafford doesn't fall off, the offense should be great again. And the defense was good, but it struggled a little against the pass. So you mentioned they go out and get Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, so the backfield. And now you got a better pass rush with Myles Garrett. So now they should be elite on both sides of the ball. And so they look like the team to beat in the NFC for sure. But I actually think this was a great trade for both teams. This is that rare trade where I look at the Browns, I'm like, outside of, the Deshaun Watson thing was just terrible. Other than that, the front office, they've drafted well in the last 2 drafts. Now they're going to have, I think, 11 picks,
yes,
in the next few years or next year. 11 picks next year, 2 firsts. That front office has shown they can draft. So what they need is a quarterback. I'll say this. To me now, because I've been on board with playing Deshaun Watson, if he beats Al Shador, play him. And I'm still like that, but I'm also a bigger part of me is now saying he should have a tiny leash, a very short leash, because I do want to find out now more than ever. They weren't going to be that good this year anyway.
But now they're signaling. They
it's
traded away their best
definitely a
player.
total rebuild.
Yes.
And so find out, maybe you just start Shador, period, because find out, is he our guy? And if he's not, we have the resources to go out and get our guy. So I think it was really good for both.
I get why the Browns did it. I obviously get why the Rams did it. The Super Bowl favorites become the bigger Super Bowl favorites. But what a come up for Myles Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
Myles Garrett gets to demand a trade out of Cleveland, put out that post, I'm going to go from Cleveland to Canton. That was never the plan.
Yeah.
Have that get rescinded, sign the largest contract extension for a non-quarterback in NFL history, 4 years, $160 million, get a full no-trade clause in that deal, set the sack record, so the signature accomplishment of his time in Cleveland, only then to waive the no-trade clause that he negotiated to upgrade from Shador Sanders and Deshaun Watson to Matt Stafford, to upgrade from Todd Monken to Sean McVay, to upgrade from Cleveland to Los Angeles. Pretty sweet place to live.
Well, sorry, bro.
But take a shot.
It is just an all-time come-up for a non-quarterback to have that type of leverage to go chase the one thing that he doesn't have in an otherwise perfect, sparkling, for sure, first ballot Hall of Fame legacy. An unbelievable day for Myles Garrett.
And it all, that's what I was going to say is not what I'm about to say now, but to piggyback off that, the Rams being the Rams started with the Matt Stafford trade. The Rams they had Les Snead, they had Sean McVay, they were consistently in the mix. Their final year with Jared Goff, they won a playoff game. They obviously had made a Super Bowl with Goff, but they were not the marquee destination. And so the fact that by making that bold of a trade, trading away a quarterback that you drafted number 1 overall, who had taken you to a Super Bowl or had been on your team when you went to the Super Bowl, and you had given a contract extension, that they said, not good enough, we can get better, and then continuing to double down on that philosophy, the we can get better. They trade for Jalen Ramsey. You mentioned they trade for Trent McDuffie. They made other significant moves in the interim. They traded midseason for Von Miller 1 year, to where Myles Garrett, because he had a no-trade clause, I don't think the Rams are the only place he would have accepted a trade to, but they probably were, the highest on his list. Yep. My other major takeaways is this is unprecedented compensation. I think Jared Verse would have been, if Jared Verse were available, what does he get traded for? I think as much as what Trent McDuffie got traded for, right? A first, a third, and a fourth of additional stuff. I think probably more.
I think more though, because he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal before the option kicks in. It's 2 years of him being very cheap.
So that's a great point. So let's just say Jared Verse by himself would have gone for 2 1s.
I think it's arguable. It's 2 1s. Yes.
So they are giving up the equivalent of 3 firsts, a second, and a third, which is in line with what the Broncos gave up for Russell Wilson not that long ago. And again, that obviously didn't work out, but it was marquee quarterback on the move. That was the price. That's what 30-year-old Myles Garrett just went for. And I don't think any of us think, oh, that's a drastic, terrible overpay. You're paying a premium, but you are trying to win right now. My other 2 major takeaways before we move on to the other teams that could have done it. I wonder if they thought this was in the works when they drafted Ty Simpson.
I think it had to be.
Does this inform the Ty Simpson pick more because they know, we're not going to have the capital to go get a quarterback in the future. We have something like this coming, so we'll take so we want to have that bird in the hand there. And then my last one, which speaks to your point about them being the runaway favorites. Right now, the NFL, to me, has a conference in the AFC with superhuman quarterbacks and decent teams surrounding them. And a conference in the NFC with these awesome teams and decent quarterbacks helming them, except for the Rams. Right, The Rams are like, hey, what if we have both? What if we have the league MVP at quarterback and the best roster? Meanwhile, most of the other best quarterbacks we think play in the AFC, and then we're like, the Chiefs need this, the Bills need that, the Ravens need this. And then the AFC, it's like the Eagles or even the defending champ Seahawks. It's the bigger question mark is about their quarterback and not the Rams, who now seem to have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, look, I'll say this before we move on. And you mentioned Jarrett Verse and what he possibly would have gotten or could have gotten possibly.
If he were available.
If you're Cleveland, you mentioned this. If you're Cleveland, it's hard to part ways with a guy that was so impactful and he was your linchpin. He was everything. But when you if you look at the tape and you watch who Jarrett Verse is and what you now have moving forward, you are excited about your future. So both sides, I'll agree with you, in both sides win this deal. But Myles Garrett, I don't care what you need to give up. If you have him circled and he's an option for you to try to go get, and you are a team like the Rams who are on the brink, I don't believe that there was many teams that he would remove that trade clause for. It had to be like the Chiefs, obviously, a team like the Chiefs, a team that is a true contender, that has a quarterback for sure solidified at that position, and that will allow him to still be who he's been over the past years that we've seen him.
Well, so this morning, and that kind of leads us well into our next conversation, Mary Kay Cabot had an article that we can discuss here because 30 other teams aren't getting Myles Garrett. Mary Kay Cabot, like 6 hours ago, released an article that said the following. She obviously covers the Browns for the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Some of the teams rumored to have interest in Garrett are the Rams. Check. Good reporting there. Eagles and Cowboys. But nothing has been substantiated. The Rams thing obviously got substantiated rather quickly. I think the Eagles and Cowboys probably fall into a similar bucket of what you're talking about, teams that are ready to win right now. Brew, if we assume that Garrett's no-trade clause wasn't going to be a huge hindrance, which team do you think missed out? Doesn't just have to be on that list, but which team do you think missed out most on not trumping this Rams offer?
Well, look, obviously I'm the Ravens guy, and when you didn't get Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson was a nice consolation prize. This would have been way beyond the consolation prize. And so now I get it. Maybe the Browns wouldn't have even dealt with them. And I could bring up Cincinnati too. Because they could have obviously used him. So maybe trading in the division was not something the Browns were going to do. But, we heard the reports too that even like the Ravens were going after Hendrickson while they still were in the process of getting Max Crosby. So Hendrickson should not have stopped them from wanting to get Myles Garrett. So I just would have liked to have seen that.
And they didn't trade any picks for Hendrickson. That was pure. It was free agent. So they had their picks. So
I have felt confident about the Ravens roster versus really anybody in the league. But now you do have to admit the Rams on paper look better.
Yes.
And so that's one team I would say on paper is better than the Ravens. But yeah, I would have liked to see them get it.
So I'm surprised Philly didn't just do it. It just seems like a very Philly type of move. They have different they don't have a lot of cash constrictions because Jeffrey Lurie will, put it on the credit card. But even with that, They do have some potential cap issues on the horizon, so maybe that hurt them in that regard. I am most surprised that your team, who has a quarterback on a rookie deal, who you look at their roster, it is the one spot that it's like, man, how are they going to get a consistent pass rush? You had to have Caleb pull so many rabbits out of his hat in the playoff, in part because they weren't able to get a consistent pass rush. Are you surprised Chicago isn't the team we're talking about here?
They don't have a young edge rusher to fill in the Jared Verse spot. And so if we say that Verse is worth 2 first-round picks, I just don't think Ryan Poles is ready to trade 5 draft picks, including 3 firsts, for Myles Garrett. But I know they were interested in Max Crosby before the failed physical. I know they had edge rushers on their board that they were hoping were falling to them in the draft that they weren't able to get in the draft. So they're an NFC team, which maybe Cleveland would have been interested in dealing with them. So I definitely think the Bears had this conversation. But I don't think but most of the reporting, Albert Breer posted a piece right before we came on the air, that the Rams really did not want to give up Jared Verse. They wanted to make this just a draft pick trade. And the Browns were adamant that a young, cost-controlled player needed to be included in the deal. And the Bears just don't have that at edge rusher. So if that was the Browns' sticking point, there's just so few teams in the league that could meet this point.
Good.
That's assuming Breer's reporting
It's literally the Rams. It's literally the Rams in terms of a team that Myles Garrett again
would want to
go to that has a comp that then you can make this trade.
The Eagles are not going to trade Jalen Carter.
No.
In this spot, it's a very small list if premium young edge rushers.
But the other team that's in this report is the Cowboys. They don't have a young, but they got Rashawn Gary. They got pieces that you could try to manufacture something. Now, I don't at all believe that equates to who obviously Jared Verse is and what he will possibly turn into. But it would be an attractive destination, I believe, for Myles Garrett, because you got the quarterback that I believe he thinks.
Dallas?
I believe in the quarterback.
Oh, yeah, he would. Went there.
A lot of it, I know we're focusing on the defense side and what they possibly didn't have or could have had, but I think a lot of it had to do with what they look like as a team, what they have at the quarterback position. So we talk about Philly. How does he feel about Jalen Hurts and that offense minus a A.J. Brown who might be on his way out, who we all believe is on his way out? So I don't know if Philly would have been as attractive as even Dallas for Myles Garrett, because they have a young George Pickens who's obviously on the franchise tag, and then you obviously have CeeDee Lamb, a running game that you're coming up, and then a young defensive coordinator that you've pretty much thrown everything at, like, here, whatever you want, we'll support you, we'll provide you. That would have been attractive not only for us, for Myles, and every other talking head.
So but if this isn't the best possible fit, it's on the very, very short list. It's the second or third best possible fit. It might be the very best. The thing I am most excited to see that we have never seen is, what does a Myles Garrett season look like when he's playing for a team that's constantly ahead? What is the upper bound? If he can have 23 sacks for a Browns team that was going to have the 6th pick of the draft last year that was constantly behind, if he is playing, for a team that is, the Super Bowl favorites, that is going to score a bunch of points, that in order to get back in games against the Rams, you're going to have to drop back and pass. What does that look like for Myles Garrett? We're all going to get to find out. We'll talk about this more and more throughout the day. A performance for the ages coming up, I'm sure. Basically, what Brew is about to do is the inverse of what we just saw Chet do. That's next on First Things First.
Danny's boy, Chet.
Oh, come on.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments that matter. For the moments you plan and the ones you don't. Built for the busy days that turn into all-night study sessions. The moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken. The times you're deep in your flow and the absolute last thing you need is an auto update throwing off your momentum. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to the way you actually work. With long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for the closest outlet. and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule not in the middle of it. They don't build tech for tech's sake. They build it for you. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you. Moving on to Game 7. Wemby and the Spurs go into OKC as underdogs, leave headed to the NBA Finals. Wemby's got 22-7. 6 other Spurs score in double digits. San Antonio headed to their first finals since 2014. Brew, no team in the last 40 years has won a conference finals Game 7 against the defending champs until your Spurs did it. Why am I asking? This is a dumb question. Are you surprised your young Spurs did it?
Do I look surprised?
Well, I can't really see your eyes, so I don't know.
Not in the least bit. I told you guys, both of you, including Wilds, that come this weekend, the Spurs would march into Oklahoma City's house.
Oh, no.
And demand that SGA give them one of his fabulous fur coats.
What?
Forget the robe. I want the fur coat that Shea wore in one of his press conferences. So they demanded the fur coat, and then they kicked up their feet to show the brand new Wemby GT Cut 4 sneakers that he will be playing in the finals. And then
new wardrobe.
They said, get ready for a delicious Game 7.
Oh, nuts.
That does look
with Tex-Mex food and a prickly pear margarita. A virgin one, because they're in training and Dylan Harper's too young
I was
to
going to
drink.
say, yeah.
All right?
I don't
But
know
I'm
if they're
not.
old enough.
And so,
Wow.
just when, wow, this does smell good.
Yeah.
Just when they thought it was over, the Spurs said, "Le what?"
Oh,
Because they're young. They still have sweet tooth. They like junk food. So after they ate all the Tex-Mex in OKC's home, drank the prickly pear virgin margarita, they washed it all down with some French pastry.
Of course. Some croissant.
So the only thing, Danny Parkins, that surprised me was that it took 7. I thought they'd do it in 6.
Wow.
But that only made it sweeter.
So,
no pun intended.
I think the pun might have been I mean, that was, I don't know if there was any analysis there, but I didn't need it. So, Danny, let me
go right ahead.
Go to you for some cogent analysis. Okay. And I'm going to ask for some honesty here.
Yeah.
Because you and I were together at, it was Hank Azaria's charity poker tournament, friend of the show, during Game 6.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And while I stuck with on Friday, that I
wanted to go to the Spurs.
Well, I stuck with the Thunder in 7, but there were a lot of concerning signs in Game 6, not the least of which were they got annihilated. So, and we're going to talk about the inevitability of the Thunder later in the show.
Can't wait.
And we know how confident you were in the Thunder.
Yeah.
Even with that confidence, were you stunned by this?
No.
So that's what I thought.
No, we watched the game together. Brew called me out for wavering at times over the Thunder. Like, listen, throughout NBA history, teams that have never done anything in the playoffs are not supposed to be able to do this. And I said, so I will not pick them to do it, but I have to be open to the possibility that the 7'5" alien is different and rules do not apply to him.
But that wasn't really the story of this game.
I know, but I think the Thunder have just gotten stronger month over month over month. The Spurs have gotten strong.
And particularly their three-point shooting.
Yeah.
That changed everything.
And Dylan Harper has continued to, he's 20 years old, and he's putting up Magic Johnson-like numbers as a rookie point guard in the playoffs. They are wildly impressive in any metric. Then you add in the curve of how young they are, and it's one of the more impressive things you could imagine. And then when you add in, and I know we'll talk more about the Thunder, how bad they've looked offensively in stretches without Mitchell and Jalen Williams, this Thunder team was not complete. That is not to take away from what the Spurs did, but of course
I was going to say, you wouldn't.
It makes it less shocking that they got them.
But I don't think that's a legitimate excuse. They were up 3-2. They had the best record in the league with Jalen Williams missing 2/3 of the season.
Correct.
And then the Spurs played the first 2 games without De'Aaron Fox. We saw the effect that had on them as far as turnovers. And Dylan Harper for a good, 2 games
I would
or so
say until
wasn't
game
100%.
5.
Yeah.
And so
who do you think would have won?
Well, hold on. I don't want to do who would have.
The Spurs
because the Spurs, they've now played 13 times, right?
12.
12 times. Sorry.
Spurs have won 8.
Right. So and early in the year, the Thunder were the healthier team because Wemby was on a minutes restriction.
Right.
But this is what surprised me the most, Brew, and this is what I want to get. Now you're going to have to give great analysis wearing,
I look like Shea at a press conference. Would we be surprised if we saw Shea?
Not at all.
Like
but I thought, I'm gonna cross streams here. It kind of looks a little like Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat a little bit. But
look at you in your Bible.
Exactly right. So here is what did shock me. Because if I thought, okay, Wemby will be fine. And Castle's played for national championships. I know it's not the NBA playoffs. Right. And Harper just seems like a different type of cat. But Champagnie and Vassell and Keldon Johnson, who hadn't done anything in the whole series, and Fox, who had come back but didn't look like those guys I was worried about. Instead, everyone I just mentioned scored in double figures. Wemby's impact does not show up just in the box score, but whether it's box score watching or watching the game, that was not one of Wemby's, 15 best games of this whole season. No. You know what I mean? Wemby was solid and had moments, and they still controlled basically the whole game and won. That's what shocked me, Brew, was not that they won, but that they won without Wemby being great, and with Shea having the best game, maybe the best playoff game of his career, certainly the best game he's had in this series.
Yeah, no, Wemby, as you said, was solid. He wasn't fantastic or anything like that. But, and this is why you don't just look at the box scores. His impact shows up, defensively, even Shea. Shea was great. I don't want to take anything from him. And as much criticism as he was getting, he stepped up and answered the bell. But down the stretch, he looked exhausted. Like the last 4 minutes, he took one shot, didn't score, and he just looked like he needed some help, and he was looking for some help.
Get it.
Right.
And some guys weren't there to give it to him.
He was not, the whole game, but even late, especially with Shea, they just weren't attacking the rim, and they're getting in the mid-range and then kicking it out or passing it up because of Wemby. And obviously that allows the other defenders to really get after it. De'Aaron Fox said after the game, if he played with 4 bad defenders, Wemby, he would make them look like good defenders and be much different. But the fact that they actually have good defenders, he just makes them that much better. So, but to your point, Champagnie, I said it all year, they're deep. They're not as deep necessarily as OKC. But they are deep, and
so
Keldon and those guys are pretty. But Champagnie stepped up.
It's a different type of deep. They aren't, in my opinion, super deep as far as number of guys they.
They'll go 9. They can go 9 deep.
But here's where I think their depth is special. I think they have 7 starting caliber guys. That's what, to me, is the distinction. In that it's not so much that, like a healthy Thunder, we can play 12 guys and be fine. But Keldon Johnson was 6th man of the year, and Dylan Harper is one of their 4 best players and doesn't start. So those 2 guys plus Vassell, Fox,
Cornet
I didn't even mention. Cornet
game.
would be the 8th guy,
Ridiculous.
and so.
And Carter Bryant, is a talent.
So
He's
that's
gonna be
where the
good
actual
going forward.
numerical depth comes from. So now all of a sudden it's like, okay, there's 9 guys who we feel really comfortable with. A 10th is Harrison Barnes, who used to be a starter. 7 guys, all of whom are good enough to be starters on a championship level team. That's how Wemby can just have an okay game by his standards and they control the whole thing. The other thing that didn't show up in the box score, and should, because you have points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. Souls stolen. Wemby would have 1, and it would have been Chet Holmgren. So here is the other piece of the game. SGA did drop 35. Chet dropped 4. 2 shot attempts in 33 minutes, and that's misleading because he took 2 of the Thunder's first 3 field goal attempts. He made their first basket. 0 field goal attempts, the final 45 minutes of action on the bench in some key moments late in the game. Here's Chet on his Game 7 performance.
What do you see as like the biggest challenges for you offensively tonight?
I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape on that.
Tough company for Chet. Under 5 points in a Game 7 by an all-star this century. Chet, Saturday night. Chris Bosh, Game 7 of the finals. Ray Allen, Game 7 in the game his team won. Jason Kidd, Game 7 against Detroit in a game his team lost. Danny.
Bosh won that game, right? They won.
That was the Ray Allen series. Yep. LeBron. Yep. That was their second ring in Miami. All right, Danny. How much of this Game 7 loss is on Chet?
The overwhelming majority of it. That's an interesting graphic because you're comparing him to other all-stars who had bad Game 7s.
And who weren't, aside from Kidd, weren't their team's best player. You know what I mean? Were their second or third best guy.
Absolutely.
I think that is totally fair. And he should be considered. I mean, he was an all-NBA player. I know you didn't have him on all-NBA, but I thought he should have been. He would have been on my ballot.
And he was the best defensive player outside of Wemby.
Right, he was finished second in Defensive Player of the Year, and at times during the series he made a defensive impact. But I did a different type of Game 7 graphic. Because I think that is arguably the worst Game 7 performance of our lifetime. We're basically the same age, of any player who plays real minutes. No, not a star. Anyone who plays a lot of minutes. If you played more than 30 minutes in a Game 7 with 2 or fewer field goal attempts and scored 4 or fewer points, look at the company here. It's not Irvin Magic Johnson. These are just guys who play minutes. You're not supposed to be an all-NBA player who this season was legitimately really good.
Damon Jones can't catch a break.
And then, on top of everything else.
It's just one of the worst no-shows that I've ever seen.
Do you agree? I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't know who said it. Someone said it during the broadcast, I think. So maybe it was Jamal, maybe it was post-game. I'd rather you be 1 for 10 than 1 for 2.
Of course.
Okay.
Well, so I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's actually then roll the video to get to that.
Okay.
This play, you and I were actually on the phone for this because it was at the
that's right. I was 2 seconds ahead of Danny. Danny and I talked at halftime, and then the game started. We were still on the phone.
I was apoplectic when this possession happened, and it ended up being a made 3-point shot for the Thunder. And we will get to this here as soon as the guys can roll it. You have come out of halftime. You've had a terrible first half. You are Chet Holmgren. Jalen Williams isn't there. A.J. Mitchell isn't there. And the ball comes around to you. I'm sure they'll show it here in a second. And I don't understand how he doesn't pull the trigger, bro. He just wasn't looking to shoot. He wasn't catching the ball clean. He was hiding in the corner. And I don't know how you live with yourself when you have 0 field goal attempts in the second half. And so whenever we show the video is fine. But it was a complete no-show for a great player.
Wide open.
Explain. He's got 10 feet.
I'll explain it.
Okay. But Brew, it's a 2-point game. They're just out of halftime. He shouldn't have his soul completely snatched from his body yet. Look at it where he catches the ball. No one.
He's terrified.
He's terrified.
Catch and shoot.
And you could see it after the game too.
He was dumbstruck after the game.
Most players would say, I didn't show up. I had to be better. I bet you I don't expect Shea to score 2 points, but let's say Shea scored 14 and was really bad and just not engaged.
He would say,
I got to be better.
Steph's game 7 in 2016.
Yep.
And I think he had 17 or something. It wasn't anything like this, but it was his worst game.
They take it on
right,
themselves.
He was 100%, but go ahead, sorry.
Look, I said this last week. Even if they had won this game and gone on to win the championship, Chet Holmgren is going to have to do some real soul searching this summer, this offseason. I mean, real, what? Because this is, everybody can see, this was mental. And I agree with, I don't know who it was that said, I'd rather you go 1 for 15 than 1 for 2. Part of our criticism of James Harden for game 7s and 6s has been, 2 for 9. You're a guy that shoots 20 times a night, but in these big games, you're shooting 8 times. So he was scared. There were times where a teammate had the ball and Chet could have gotten a pass and was open and wouldn't look at the teammate. He did not want the rock. And so he has got to figure out, because I think this could be a real turning point for him in one of 2 ways. If he really can figure out what the heck was going on and man up, he can come back stronger and better than ever. If he doesn't, this could be, I hate to even put it out there, but Ben Simmons not shooting in the playoffs in Philadelphia. Nick Anderson missing 4 free throws, right?
Just firing off my takes before blue goes.
Remember that?
The Nick
Anderson was a 70% free throw shooter before he missed those 4 free throws
Game
in the
1 of
finals.
the 95 finals, Nick Anderson has free throws to ice it, misses 2, they get the rebound, they foul him again, misses 2 more. For everybody who's
never
not
the same play. I think they were out playing Houston.
Yes.
They could have. And
then they got swept.
I don't say they could have won the series.
Still.
Right. He was a 70% foul shooter. The last several years of his career, he had 2 seasons where he shot under 50% and another one where he shot under 56%. So this is big for Chet. This is not just, one guy's got his number. Because that guy ain't going nowhere.
No, the question
You're gonna
is
see him the rest of his career.
Because of this, and we'll talk more about this later, but it'd be remiss not to at least allude to it now. Question is Chet going to go somewhere? Because I thought of Nick Anderson, not Ben Simmons, because Ben Simmons, I think, had, there was a lot of red flags leading up to that moment in his whole basketball career, and then it all unraveled, right? Nick Anderson, the free throws thing is interesting because that moment ruined him specifically as a free throw shooter, and that had a knock-on effect on the rest of his career. Yep. I would be terrified if I were OKC, Danny, because we were texting, or I don't even remember all our communications. But Chet, if you remove the games against the Spurs this season, Chet was unbelievable. Yep. Was a max kicks in this coming year. Was a max level player. Was clearly their second most important guy. It does unlock a lot of their defensive tenacity on the perimeter, not to the same degree, but similar to what Wemby does. And is a 7-footer that can shoot and all that stuff. I would be terrified that Chet's going to come back next year and I'm going to be like, he looks great. All that, and then against the Spurs he's not. That this is a special affliction because Wemby hates him for beating him in that stupid international game 5 years ago. And
to your point, Nick, you wonder, and we'll never know this, if Wemby had not, for whatever reason, just taken a disliking to Chet and didn't, trash talk him or stare him down, whatever he's doing, to intimidate him. If he just treat him like he treats the rest of the Thunder, would Chet have this reaction?
I don't know.
I think that's
it's
a great
impossible
question.
to know, and I respect the Nick Anderson comp. Chet is 24 years old. It is very hard for me to write off a guy. As terrible as it was.
I mean, Nick Anderson was a young
I'm not writing him off, but
I'm just wondering.
are you open to the possibility?
Of course.
That this is a fork in the road negative for him?
Of course.
Okay. No, I'm not writing him off, but
I would bet against it. Is my point. Like that, what you guys are talking about is like a cataclysmic, the worst possible outcome.
But what about with Wemby? I get it. Not the rest of the league. He might still be great. What about versus Wemby?
Well, you got to beat those other teams too.
Yeah, but if you can't beat them,
I know, but there is no such thing as a Wemby stopper, and we'll get to that when we talk about how the Thunder should or should not retool. Chet was awesome this year on both ends of the floor. He might be awesome against 28 teams and not this one, and this is the one that matters, and then other people are going to have to step up. And I get it, and that's a tough argument to be making the day after this just happened, but they have to do everything in their power to figure out a way to get him to be okay against the Spurs.
Yeah, nobody expects him to outplay Wemby.
Good,
just
that's not
play
happening.
well.
No, don't be scared.
He took
don't
two
be scared.
shots.
No, I mean,
Brew, I'm not defending.
And
it was insane.
And just real quick, I don't know if he were in the East, and maybe he will end up in the East. I would probably not care so much if Wemby. It's like, hey, we got to make the finals, and they got to make all that stuff. But there is an element of, and there isn't a great comp for this. But when the Heat and Pacers were going, they weren't real wars because the Heat always won. But in that first, it would go 7, and they played repeatedly. If you realize in that first matchup, oh my God, Paul George falls apart when LeBron's on the other side of the court, that would remove all of his value for the Pacers. Yeah. Because it's like, he's not going anywhere. Guess what? LeBron is going, you're going to have to go through him. And I'm just picking Paul George because they played. He obviously was great in those series. That is such a huge but on a player if there is someone. Chet's 24. Wemby's 22. Yep. Chet, like the Thunder won last year's Western Conference. The Spurs won this year's. That is the hurdle. So, and I don't know how you can figure out how he's going to look next time against them until they play again, and they're going to have big decisions to make before then. All right, we'll talk about this more. When you're at work, you never know when you're going to get interrupted. Like when an office fire drill happens right in the middle of your presentation, or construction is going on just outside your window. But with the Dell Pro laptop powered by Intel Core Ultra with vPro, no matter how many interruptions you have, your laptop won't be one of them. With battery that's optimized for the way you work and built-in intelligence that quiets distractions the moment you're trying to focus, your tech won't slow you down. Even when you're getting bounced from an office you forgot to reserve. The Dell Pro, built for those who stay in the flow. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell-Pro. Built for you. Moving to the pitch. USA took down Senegal 3-2 in a warm-up friendly for the World Cup. Cristian Pulisic found the back of the net, ending his 154-day scoring drought. Also added an assist. 11 days until the U.S. takes on Paraguay. Danny, Pulisic had a rough 2026 for club and country. Entering August through December, a goal every other game plus a few assists. January up until yesterday, 21 games, 0 goals, 2 assists. How critical, in your opinion, was Pulisic's performance yesterday?
Massive. Felt like it was priority item 1, 2, and 3 for the men's national team. Like he said, I've been playing well, and now hopefully people can just stop talking about it. That's not how this one's going to work. Right. You're the face of the men's national team when we're hosting the World Cup. Like best player on the host country, we're going to talk about you if you've gone 21 games for club and country without finding the back of the net. So his celebration was huge. Like it just clearly seemed like some sort of weight off of his shoulders. And it's tough to put much importance or take a ton of takeaways from these friendlies. You're doing so many substitutions. You're playing multiple keepers.
But it is your real roster. Now that they've set the roster.
No doubt. But to me, given all the substitutions that they had and playing multiple goalkeepers, You give me they lose 3-2, but Pulisic has a goal, or they win 3-2 and he doesn't have a goal. I'll take lose 3-2 with Pulisic.
But
having
instead
a
they
goal.
got both.
And exactly. Instead they got both. They were able to come back and get that third goal. But I thought it was by far the biggest thing they needed to get out of the friendly.
No, I agree. And I don't think you can overstate the importance of it. You know, we had several guests over the weeks talk about how you just have to see that ball go into the net, and he is now. And I mean, he was saying the right thing to act like it wasn't a big deal, but inside, I'm sure it was. And so this is a huge burden off him and the team, because he obviously is your guy, and I'm sure it bolstered the confidence of the team to see, okay, he's back, he's got it going. And look, Senegal is the 14th ranked team in the world.
Around the same ranking.
They're ranked a little bit higher, a little higher than us. So that was also a good win for the team, and it happened against a top team.
Well,
so
that's the other piece of it is, and I don't know if we have this graphic or not, like the U.S., yes, these games don't count, but you didn't want to go into the World Cup on a multi-game losing streak. And now listen, they play Germany in a few days. We'll see how they do there. But big chances is kind of a fuzzy stat, but it's a real stat, meaning either where you score or you had a great opportunity to score. Against Portugal, not only did they not score, it's not like they got unlucky not to score. Against Belgium, they had 5 in this game. Balogun was awesome, had 1 goal disallowed, scored another goal, and they had an amazing opportunity late in the game where they had 3 great shots on goal. 1 hit the post, 1 just missed. That was I agree with everything you guys said. The most important thing was Pulisic to feel good going into the tournament. And I don't know how much to judge the back end struggling because some of those defenders won't be starters. My guess is the one goalie that didn't play yesterday, Matt Freese, is going to play the whole game against Germany and then be the starter for the actual World Cup. But if the U.S. is going to have success, I actually think it's going to have to be through its front 7 guys. I don't think they're going to. In the past, some U.S. teams like try to scratch out a goal and then defend. I think this team's going to have to try to win games like this, 3-2. So seeing Balogun get going, Pulisic get going, Pochettino seemed quietly confident throughout, despite the fact that they had been struggling. You don't want to take too much from it, but nobody got hurt in this game.
That was what I was going to say.
Pulisic feels good. 1 more warm-up, and then World Cup in 11 days.
Chris Richards getting healthy would help a lot.
Yes.
For their defense with his ankle injury, but like otherwise coming out of these games healthy is going to be massive.
Right. So I wonder how much we see Pulisic in the final warm-up game.
I
All right, coming up next, Myles Garrett's on the Rams now. If you don't have your Twitter notifications on, you taking them or the field? We'll discuss that next. First things first. Live from New York. It's the show that, in all honesty, didn't give Danny nearly enough flack for all of the Thunder propaganda we've been subjected to.
Let's just keep talking Myles Garrett.
And we will fix that this hour.
Fortunate.
I love this
second hour.
Got a lot of angles to get into on this trade.
Coming up, an emotional Wemby after winning his first NBA championship. Oh, is this just the conference finals? Okay. Proves Brew right. Is he locked in on winning a title? Also, speaking of Danny, how many graphics when they win the title? This is the company he's in. When they make the this is the company he's in.
Can we put those to bed?
I mean, my God.
Can you admit he's not Michael Jordan?
Troy made 100 graphics that were all predicated on the Thunder actually winning something this year. Now they're all useless.
Sorry, Troy.
What's next for OKC? But amazingly, that's not the big story of the day. I'm adding some editorial privilege here. I'm going to call that man a future first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going from one of Brew's hometowns to another place Brew, I think, lived with his aunt.
Yeah, I slept in a twin bed in South Central.
Brew was doing daily national television, living in a guest bedroom on a twin bed in Compton.
I remember that.
Right next to Compton.
Browns finalizing a deal to send 2-time defensive player of the year Myles Garrett to the Rams. Package includes LA sending the Browns Jared Verse, A 2027 first, that'll probably be pick 31 after they lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. 2028 second,
Talk about that
and a
before,
2029 third, all going back to Cleveland. Greg, the Rams were already Super Bowl favorites before this trade. Now they are the heavy favorites. Is anyone or anything stopping the Rams aside from like Stafford gets hurt? Like we're not talking about the potential injury.
Yeah, I think the only thing that truly can stop this team is these guys not playing up to their expectations.
Okay.
And I say that because in Coach Chris Shula is going to have a lot to do with this defensively, because I don't think any one of us believes that offensively they're just going to take a step back. I mean, Devontae is he's a year older, so we kind of understand where Devontae is, but we know that he can still be productive in Puka and Matt Stafford, reigning MVP. But defensively, once you acquire these type of players, the Trent McDuffies of the world, obviously the Myles Garretts of the world, you re-sign Cam Curl, who was a huge part of what you did last year. It is now incumbent upon you as a defensive coordinator to make it work. Put everybody in advantageous situations and positions to where they can be the best version of themselves that will also garner the best version of you as a team defensively in a unit. If that happens, which, again, we have never seen Myles Garrett. You kind of alluded to this a different way. We've never seen Myles Garrett in this type of situation where, he's out front. He's going to be a front runner.
You brought that up a couple times. Do you have some questions?
It's not that I have questions. It's when he's only played in 3 playoff games, because regular season, I think, okay, they're going to make the postseason.
He's never been scrutinized for a bad game.
No.
This is what I would say. Like, great defensive players on bad teams, we only talk about them when they have great games and
Correct.
and I'm not saying the guy has a bunch of bad games. And I'll be honest, I don't even, because, we're not play-by-play. Like, what did he follow his assignment there?
Right.
But there is a level of scrutiny that I remember Micah getting that he's never been subjected to. You know what I mean? Was he chasing a sack rather than staying with his assignment? In this big matchup, was he, didn't have the impact he had in other things? I think that's what.
Yeah, those are some of the things that we're going to now see. What type of player again? And when I say this, I don't literally mean what type of. We know who Myles Garrett is, but on a team that has aspirations and who is really out there to win it all, we all believe that they have the roster to do it. How impactful and does what we've seen in Cleveland carry over? Because the expectation is not going to now all of a sudden be shared like, well, he has support. We're still going to expect Myles Garrett to be Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head earlier when you said if they don't play up their potential. If Stafford at 38 years old shows his age, Devontae Adams, not quite what he was in his prime, but if he falls off, Puka's had off the field issues. So do those things come into play? But outside of that, I mean, you got to love them on paper. And they have a coach and an organization that knows he's a great coach, obviously. So that's not a worry. And they've had a defensive caliber, a player of that caliber in Aaron Donald that they know how to handle a first ballot Hall of Fame type talent. So I think you bring up an interesting point, Greg. It's kind of like in the NBA when a guy averages 25 on a bad team. You wonder, okay, can he do it on a good team? I think Garrett will be great, but it's just something to watch for.
I've got one thing that I think could stop the Rams, and I want your take on it. I think the weather in January could. I think so I'll explain what I mean. I think this team everything about this team now is about being awesome at the pass and defending the pass. That was their one weakness last year was their pass defense, so they went out and remade their secondary, got a great pass rusher. They play in Los Angeles in, big climate-controlled situation. This trade, to me, makes the regular season so much more important for Chicago, Green Bay, and Philly. Because I do not think any of those 3 teams are going to have a talent edge against the Rams. And if a game is played on the Rams' terms, again, assuming health, and we know health will be a factor in some way,
right?
That they're going to be at a massive deficit. I think what could be a stumbling block for the Rams is if because of that division, if because of, other circumstances, they have a year similar to last year where they are awesome and just miss out on the number 1 seed. And last year, they made them drop all the way to the 5 seed because of it. Them having to go outdoors to one of those places, that to me is because I don't think the Rams are going to be a great running team. And I don't.
Kyron's pretty.
Right. I think they'll be fine. And I would argue, I think Jared Verse might be a better run defender than Myles Garrett. He's certainly on par with him, and Garrett's excellent at it, which is a testament really to Jared Verse being great at that last year. That's, to me, if I'm one of the other NFC contenders in a cold weather outdoor city, I'm saying, man, we've got to make sure we're hosting if we play the Rams, that game's got to be in our building. That's my first takeaway.
I mean, Rams did all right in Chicago. They did okay in Philly. Myles Garrett's played in the cold. Devontae's played in the cold. Stafford has good games in the cold. You said before the break, I know you were being hyperbolic, Rams are the field. I clearly would take the field. I mean, I think if the Seattle Seahawks are listening to this conversation, they're like, we beat them in the NFC Championship game last year, and we were in the
but Seattle lost pieces and they added pieces.
And the way Seattle averaged about 400 yards passing in the 2 wins, so that's what they addressed.
Well, the Rams deserve to be favorites because of the offseason moves, but you know how NFL teams, the Seahawks do not look at themselves as being massive underdogs against the Rams, or that they
underdogs
can't
at all.
Do you?
No. Yeah, I think the Rams are. But what about the Niners? I bet the Niners also think that they can hang.
I don't think
with
the
these
Niners
two
are in
teams
this class at all.
When they're with that coach, with that roster, if they are healthy, I think the Niners are going to be.
Them in that class.
They're going to be a very formidable team. The top 3 in the NFC West is arguably the best top 3 event. I would say the NFC North is the best division 1 through 4, but top 3, I would say it's the NFC West.
Listen, I think the Rams. I think right now, on paper, their talent is at such a higher level. I thought they were the best team in the NFC last year. I thought that they, were heading into this year as the best team in the NFC, and that was before they added Myles Garrett. I do think, Brew, in a weird way, we talk S-Bob on the show a lot. I think the Rams removed a lot of S-Bob pressure from the other 31 teams in the league for this upcoming season. I think that they are, now for a lot of the teams we talk about, they're AFC teams and it's like getting to the Super Bowl because they haven't done that yet. But I look at the Rams as a formidable, considerable favorite in the NFC and a legit favorite overall, particularly for me, pending, the health of Mahomes in the AFC.
Well, look, I think they might be the most S-Bob team. Like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's clearly more than a disappointment. It's a failure because the quarterback's old. They made this move for an older player. Yes. So, they have to win it as much, if not more, than anybody. But San Francisco is still, Trent Williams is old, and they've been knocking on the door for years. If they're not going to look at it like, oh, they're just better, so, it takes a little pressure off of us. I'm sure them and some of the other teams are still thinking, we got to win this Super Bowl this year.
All right, on the other side, the Browns got a lot. They still, however, have question marks when it comes to their quarterback room. They're coming off a 5-win season where they finished last in the division. Danny, here is the Browns' 2027 draft capital. They have all of their own picks except for a 6th. They have an additional 1st, 2 additional 3rds, an additional 5th, and an additional 7th. We now also know they have an additional 2nd in 2028, an additional 3rd in 2029. What does this trade mean for the Browns?
It means that they do not believe they are ready to win this year.
Correct.
And it means that they are prepared to move a mountain to select whoever their top quarterback is in next year's draft. I think it is that simple. Now, if Deshaun Watson has some sort of throwback, year 2 in the NFL, 5,000-yard season, we can revisit that. I certainly don't think that's going to be Shedeur Sanders having some sort of breakout, 4,500-yard, 30 touchdowns. So let's just put aside the complete outlier quarterback internal, Dylan Gabriel. They already have their guy. Most of us don't think that. They are going to say that they've drafted well the last couple of years. They are a young team. They added a elite, I will use the fringe elite, premium player in Jared Verse at a premium position to replace Myles Garrett. Not as good, but still excellent and young. And they're going to say we're a year away from being a quarterback away. And that's what this is all about. And however many of those trades, because the Rams trade is, they're slotting that in to be the 30th pick in the draft, right? That's not a premium pick, but their pick, the Rams pick, and whatever else they need to give up to go select a QB in the top 5, that's what one of the biggest storylines going into next offseason is going to be.
Yeah, that part, and they're clearly punting on this season. However, this is like you talked about Kansas City Chiefs for not last year, but years prior to them going through practice. It's being practiced. Everybody on that roster is being assessed. Anytime you get a new head coach and you are not a team that is right there, ready in contention to win, everybody is on the cutting block. We want to see what we have. And when you trade away your best player, it grabs the attention of everybody in the locker room. Oh, shoot, Myles is no longer here? So now you have everybody's attention. Obviously, the quarterback is huge. We want to see what we have at that position. But we have all these picks that if Deshaun shows us something, if Shedeur shows us something, we have all these picks and we can use them anywhere in any way we like. And so when I look at that, they're in a really good position for next year. Obviously not this year, but these players are going to still play hard. We will still see a Browns team that still can sneak up on teams and win some games because they're all being evaluated to see, are they going to be on this roster moving forward?
Well, I think first let's see how good of a head coach Monken is, Todd Monken. Because I think Stefanski is a good coach, and he obviously got him into the playoffs a few years. And even the down years under Stefanski, they were a handful for the Baltimores and the Steelers, like in that division. They're never an easy game. So let's see if that continues under Monken, because talent-wise, we know how well they've drafted. They got running backs. They have some talent. They just need a quarterback. And so, I want to see if Deshaun can turn back the clock. That's still scary, because if he does turn back the clock and look, say, good, or close,
even if he looks
better.
Really good, do you still say we're going to move forward with Deshaun?
I mean, he'd probably have to look great for you to do that. But what if he looks good and you win 9 games? I mean, it could be a problem. Or I got to see what Shedeur can do.
Yeah, I think, listen, the owner is going to decide who the quarterback is, which is a terrible way to run things, but it's the way they run things. Both those guys will play. My guess is neither one will play well enough to where they do anything other than take a quarterback in next year's draft. Here's the last thing I will say about this trade from the Browns' perspective. I really believe this will work out for the Rams. I really do. But there are ways in which the Rams end up regretting this. If Myles Garrett, at age 30 has a quicker fall off. If he, a couple of years into, his time with the Rams, like Aaron Donald style, it's like, okay, I think I'm going to retire.
When you say work out, they have to win the Super Bowl.
He win a Super Bowl or he's there for 4 years at this level he's been at. And they, for different reasons, they don't. My point is, I think this works out for the Rams. I am absolutely certain this is a good move for the Browns. Yeah. I just don't. Now, you have to hit on draft picks, but you have to hit on draft picks whether you trade for them or not. I see no scenario where this was a bad move for the Browns. They needed to move on. They needed to recognize we're not anywhere close. This was the best asset they possibly could have. They got an amazing return from him. They start cleaning up their books. There's no way, in my opinion, the Browns end up regretting this. I don't think the Rams will, but there is a scenario where the Rams are like, damn, that didn't work out at all. I don't think that'll happen, but it could. Wow. All right, what's going to be my favorite segment of the show?
Great.
Danny grovels and begs for forgiveness for all of this Thunder nonsense the last
I thought they were inevitable.
10 days and counting until the biggest World Cup ever comes to America. Cristian Pulisic and the U.S. men's national team kick off their World Cup dream on a huge night of music. Stars and celebration in L.A. on Friday, June 12th. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Heading back to Game 7, Thunder can't get it done at home. SGA drops a game-high 35, but it isn't enough, and the repeat dreams are over. Here's SGA on how he views his season from yesterday. Take a listen.
It was a failure. Like, I failed at my goal. Like, I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve.
Danny, all year long you promised us that, and I quote, "This is chapter 2 in the Thunder version of the Count of Monte Cristo," is I think what you called it. End quote. Turns out last year was just some version of Green Eggs and Ham or something. Why weren't the Thunder inevitable as you promised us they were? Or, alternate question, do you think they still are?
Bonus question.
Bonus question.
I think it's inevitable that the Thunder will win another title.
Inevitable.
Inevitable.
Great.
If you want to jump right ahead to that. The Thunder ran into an incredible team that ultimately, while they were hurt, were not as hurt as them, and they lost in Game 7 by 8 points. And that is what happened.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with them being inevitable. The thing about being a dominant
I know what it means, Nick.
dynasty
I know what it means.
juggernaut,
I know what it means.
It means
I know what it means.
you don't fall prey to a guy making $2.8 million a year straining his calf.
Okay, well, we can look at the regular season and then what happened in the series against the Spurs. The leading scorers in the regular season were not there for them. The left-hand column is
J-Dub missed more than half the season.
What do you mean we're not there for them?
Chet basically didn't play in the series.
No, he was literally there.
I know, but he
got taken out of it.
And then J-Dub and Mitchell each missed 4 games in the Western Conference Finals. Not a lot of teams with their second, third, and fourth leading scorers either not. What do you mean?
I don't want to hear about the injury.
Bro, okay, I know this is unanswerable, but hold on.
No.
If J-Dub and Mitchell were healthy, who do you think wins the series?
J-Dub missed 2/3 of the season, and they had the best record in the league. Nick has shown graphics that show their record is significant sample size.
Which feels
their
ridiculous
record is
after that
better
game.
Without him than it is with him. A.J. Mitchell that's a 14-point scorer. Stop it.
He was their second leading
Your
scorer in the
boy
playoffs.
Chet did not show up, and that's not an injury. And Spurs played 2 games without De'Aaron Fox, without a legitimate ball handler, and still won that first game.
And the biggest, one of my biggest,
I don't want to hear about the
my
injuries.
biggest takeaway on that is not the guys not there with injury. It's that Chet's production fell off a cliff, and so did Shea's until Game 7. Their two best players weren't good enough.
The Spurs are great. So their 2 best players weren't good enough, and then their 3rd and 4th best offensive players were not even there. Do you guys think they would have won if J-Dub would have been healthy?
I don't know.
No, they have played the Spurs 12 times this year. The Spurs have won 8 of them.
So here's
how in the world can you sit there and say they're better when they lost 8 of 12 games against this one team and they run over everybody else in the league?
In the playoffs, I mean, Game 1 was a coin flip. It was a double overtime game.
Yes.
And then they were up 3-2. And then their guys, J-Dub played 10 minutes in Game 6, was a 0, was completely ineffective.
But he wasn't playing when they got the 3-2 lead.
Hold on. Here's the question that I can't believe you are unwilling to engage in. What makes the Thunder a juggernaut, which they are, in the regular season, does not one-for-one translate to dominant postseasons. Because the sample of that is growing dramatically. In 2024, they were the number 1 seed. Yeah. They were the deepest team. They were the best team. They didn't have experience on their side, but they had everything else. And they didn't come close to winning the championship. They lost in round 2 in 6 games to a very flawed, put together at the trade deadline Mavs team. They were very young. They had no playoff experience. I understand, and they lost to a team with a rookie starting center and Derek Lively. They lost to a team that was not replete with a ton of veterans. Shea and Luka are the same age. And they underperformed their regular season seed by a ton. Last year, they were a 68-win juggernaut. In round 2, they went 7 games with a team that suffered the exact type of injuries you're talking about costing the Thunder their season. And then in the NBA Finals, went 7 with a Pacers team that was nowhere close to their caliber in the regular season. And this year, they were a 64-win juggernaut that went 7 and lost. Like, is it not possible that what makes them so special in the regular season, their defensive tenacity and the fact that they have endless quality players, doesn't impact the game quite as much in the postseason, and doesn't the last 3 years show you that?
It is, of course, possible, and there's no question that the playoffs are different than the regular season. I would like to see a version of the Thunder where Chet, J-Dub, and Shea are all healthy at the same time.
We saw it last year, and
Chet missed the vast majority of the season.
If not for an injury, that's why I don't want. That's another reason I don't want to hear about injuries. If not for an injury to this Pacers' best player, they might not even be champions.
Can you just real quick? And we have breaking news we're going to get to in 60 seconds. Is it not possible to you that they are way closer to the 2021 Bucks or the 2023 Thunder than you have opened your even possibility to? A really well-constructed good team that has won.
Nuggets, you mean?
What did I say?
You said the Thunder.
Oh, okay, yeah. 2021 Bucks, 2023 Nuggets, pardon me. One all-time great, multi-time MVP, a nice supporting cast, and a team that was never going to rip off a dynasty.
That to me, I will be honest with you, has not entered my consciousness
so
by
you still think they're going to be a dynasty?
Man, hold on. Jared McCain is 22. A.J. Mitchell is 23. Chet Holmgren is 24. J-Dub is 25. SGA is 27. They have a great coach, a great general. Their whole core is in their early 20s.
Here's their problem. The Spurs are three of their 4 best players. Wemby, Dylan Harper, and Stephon Castle are all going to get markedly better. Wemby's probably 70% of the player he is. Same with Dylan Harper, if that. That's the problem for the Thunder. If the Spurs were a finished product, I would be fine with you being like, okay, we lost Game 7 by 8 points. We had a couple injuries. We'll be back. The Spurs, this is the worst Spurs team that's going to be in the next 5 years.
One thing all the dynasties have in common is at least one start to finish kick-ass take-name playoff run. And the Thunder are 0 for 3 in that regard since they've had 3 number 1 seeds. We'll talk more about the Thunder and whether or not Chet's even going to be on the team more in about 15 minutes. But somebody FaceTime Kevin Wildes. I'm actually not joking, guys. Can you FaceTime him and see if we can punch him up? I don't care if the quality's bad. It's finally happened. And they did end up giving up a first. Eagles trading A.J. Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick. And a 2027 fifth-round pick. I guess that's what they were haggling over. Greg Jennings, since I just had to scoot my seat over because you're back. You went from being written out of today's show to just being a feature, a feature component. Greg, your reaction to the trade. There was a little bit of doubt over the last couple weeks. Oh, could someone else jump in? Could the Chiefs jump in? Somebody else. Your reaction to A.J. Brown going to the Pats?
I think we all kind of saw this happening. I was kind of skeptical after the news of Myles Garrett being traded to the Rams. I'm like, man, will the 49ers try to jump in there and have a knee-jerk reaction based on that, them being in the same division? But this is, I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm excited because now the Patriots get a bona fide number 1 receiver. A.J. Brown, he's going to be out of the situation that he was in. He obviously wants to be with a quarterback that can push the ball down the field. He can be featured. He can be the guy. It'll be interesting to see what the Eagles look like without A.J. Brown, because he was a key contributor to who they were and how they were able to unlock that offense, and Jalen Hurts.
I really want to know what this is going to mean for Jalen Hurts. Like, I think a lot of us on the Patriots, we have almost been, the Patriots' whole offseason, they assumed this was happening because, hey, you know what? The power of a handshake. Handshake deals. Handshakes are back. And so they knew they didn't need
Jerry Jones.
Right. Yeah, right. They knew they didn't need to draft a receiver high. They knew they were confident they were getting A.J. Brown. I am curious what you guys think this means for Jalen Hurts. Addition by subtraction or just flat out subtraction?
I mean, look, A.J. Brown is a phenomenal receiver. There's no question about that. But, I mean, I'm curious, too, to see what it looks like. But I do think it's going to be – it's probably a relief for Jalen Hurts that you just don't have this guy that's going to be constantly in your ear demanding the football, on the sidelines demanding the football, a constant distraction. They got Devontae Smith, who moves into the number 1. The draft pick, they got a receiver who looks like he'll be good. So I still think they've got a strong receiving core. And I expect Saquon Barkley, who's kind of been great one year, mediocre the next, throughout his career, to come back with a bounce-back year. So I think Jalen will be fine without A.J., and I think for the Patriots – I'm not sitting here saying they're the team to beat in the AFC, but I think they're going to be right there contending again.
I mean, I think it's on the board that 2028 first-round pick is used to draft Jalen Hurts' replacement. I think that's obviously in play.
Sure.
There's no guaranteed money, right, for Jalen Hurts after this upcoming season. There was that report that came out right at the end of the season. There's a ton of pressure on Jalen Hurts. I think Devontae Smith is a legitimate number 1, and then every move they did around it is at least somewhat of a flyer. Yeah. Hollywood Brown, injuries, Dontavian Wicks, a incomplete wide receiver. Mekhi Lemon, everybody likes him, but he's a rookie, so who knows? So they are going to say, all right, let's see what you can do.
That's a good enough receiving core that if you're a good quarterback, you can work with.
Plus Goddard, plus Saquon Barkley. So there will still be a ton of pressure on Jalen Hurts this year. And I think A.J. Brown is going to get like 150 targets. right. I mean, he should be top 5, 6 in the league in targets this upcoming year as a true number 1 with a quarterback with a massive arm who could throw to all 3 levels of the field. So I bet you A.J. Brown is thrilled.
No, it's obviously great for Drake May. It's very good for the Patriots, at least in the short term. There is some, but the day the Eagles use this pick, will A.J. Brown still be an elite receiver? The odds are probably against that. Like 2 more, after 2 more years, will he be? But the Patriots trying to take advantage of Drake's rookie contract and obviously the relationship between A.J. and Vrabel, that makes sense. You guys know I have thought this was not necessarily him going to the Patriots, but that they had to trade him. I did not believe it was tenable to bring him back. I think Howie Roseman does not have a lot of mistakes over the last few years. I think one of them was not trading him at the deadline. I don't know how last year would have ended. Yeah, it was so clearly over. It had so clearly to me run its course. He was over it. The team had stagnated, I thought, and if they had traded him at the deadline, I don't think they would have gotten worse compensation, and maybe that draft pick would have just come in this past year's draft. Maybe instead of 2028, it would have been 2026. It would have been someone to help them this year.
Yeah, I just don't think when you have him on your roster, if you're Howie Roseman, and he said this, you just don't trade a player like that when you are still feeling like you can still chase another Super Bowl. And I think that's what they were leading with. I'm not bullish on the idea that Jalen Hurts is going addition by subtraction. I'm not, because there's a lot of unknowns. I love Wicks in the role that he was playing in Green Bay. I don't know what that looks like with this roster, with obviously Devontae Smith he's going to be your number 1. When you no longer have a bona fide bailout safety valve. Like, that was A.J. Brown. I don't care how you feel about him. I don't care what he was saying, how he was saying it, how many books was on the sideline. I didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like it. The teammates didn't think it was an issue. However, when it came time, and I know he didn't end the season the way that he would have liked to with a few drops, but when it came time to bail out that offense, whose number was dialed? 11. A.J. Brown. And so it'll be interesting to see who steps into that role, because you got a lot of players that have a lot of good talent, but they've never been asked to be that guy. Right. Not even a number 2 like Devontae Smith or 1A or 1B like Devontae Smith was last year.
All right, we'll have more on this throughout. First things first, overtime, Greg's long day continues. Coming up next, though, we're going to get to Wemby's emotion. We're also going to get to whether or not Chet is going. Listen, I think it's noteworthy. Also, is Chet going to even be on the team next year? We'll discuss that next as well. First things first. Sticking with the Thunder.
Pick.
After their elimination Saturday night, this will be the 8th straight season there won't be a repeat NBA champion. SGA, however, is leaving any offseason decisions up to his GM. Take a listen.
I will give zero input. I will let Sam Presti, the greatest GM ever, do his job.
Brew, I think Danny might have written that for him.
Amen.
Listen, the big question is surrounding Chet. It's not the only question. He struggled mightily in this series. He was pretty inefficient and struggled a bit in their finals against the Pacers. All his other playoff series has been quite good. Brew, where do the Thunder go from here?
I would seriously look, like I think they should go get Giannis. And I think Chet would be the main piece in a trade. However, his stock has dropped. If I'm Milwaukee, I would rather have Alperen Şengün than Chet Holmgren. I mean, and I know Şengün's had his issues in the playoffs too, but he's not afraid of anybody in the league. He's not just going to disappear like
you're
this.
shaking your head. You don't think that's close? They were close in All-NBA balloting. They were close. Like, you don't think that's...
I mean,
and even when we just say Chet's been good, he's 16 points a game.
Is Chet the... I mean, I know Rudy Gobert would have an issue with this, but is Chet the second best defensive player in basketball?
Right. And so, but Şengün's obviously a far better offensive player. But go ahead. Sorry.
And here's the other thing, because again, I don't know if just Chet and draft picks get you Giannis. Because if I'm Houston, I'm going for Giannis too. I would also be more than open to trading Jalen Williams, because I think they can replace. They've been great without him. A.J. Mitchell, we all know, I don't know if he can be as good as Jalen, but he's a good player. Cason Wallace, and I'm not just going off Game 7 when he saved them, had 14 points in the fourth quarter, 17. I always talk about the Spurs, blue chip talent. He's a blue chip talent. He went to Kentucky as one of the top 10 players in the country out of high school. He was the 10th pick of the draft. He's an all-league defender. I had him on my all-defense. He made all-defense. And he's got offense that he hasn't really been able to show. And then Jared McCain, to your point earlier, like McCain can play, like that's not even to mention Caruso and Lou Dort. So they have enough there. So I would look at, I'd be potentially seeing what I can get for Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. My goal is Giannis, because I need somebody that can match up with Wemby, and Giannis can do it better than anybody. And Chet and Jalen are about to kick in and get $41 million each going forward. I want to get that off my cap, because I got dudes that can replace them.
Run it back.
To get beat again by a better San Antonio team.
We don't know that.
They're going to be better.
So are the Thunder.
You're hoping they get hurt. How the Thunder going to be better?
I don't understand why the young guys on the Spurs are definitely going to get better, but the young guys on the Thunder.
But the young guys on the Spurs, one is Wemby. You got no match for Wemby.
Nobody does.
I know. But Giannis is the closest thing. Chet's not even close.
Nobody is a Wemby stopper.
But
nobody is a Wemby stopper.
You know what? I don't need you to. You can't stop him. But I need you to. If he's going to give you 30 and 15, I need you to give me 27 and 12.
I don't think Sam Presti is the type of general manager that is going to put all of his chips in the middle for a player who has had, as much as I love, he's one of my 5 favorite players in NBA history, Giannis. He is on the wrong side of 30 with massive injury issues, and the idea
that's a risk.
The Thunder are built. The Thunder are built to be a 50-plus. I'll go low. A 50-plus win team for the next. I'll go low again. 5 years minimum.
With or without Chet?
With.
No, I mean without him.
Brew was saying that would be the
last
case
year. Chet was the one hurt, not Jalen, and they still ran off a great record.
Again, so I want to see what the the three guys that Sam Presti, the best GM in the sport, deemed to give the max to. He thought J-Dub was worthy of a max.
One of them at
he
least.
thought that Chet was worthy of a max. He thought SGA was worthy of the supermax. They're all signed through 2031. They have extra draft capital. They got McCain. They got Mitchell. They'll probably lose Hartenstein. They will lose Dort, but they still have Case and Wallace. They've got 3 picks in this draft. Trade into the top 10. Select whether it's a big or a shooter, inject some more spacing on the floor for Wemby. Who knows how healthy Wemby will be?
Well, that's
in
your
next
only
year's
hope
play.
is that he ain't healthy.
But if that's the Thunder's only hope, it's the league's only
I don't know.
hope.
The Knicks might beat them in a week and a half.
We'll see.
And so,
run it back.
So, I'm real quick. Will you feel differently about that if the Knicks win? If the Spurs aren't the Thunder are inevitable. Oh, they ran into the Spurs team and Wemby or whatever it is. But if a Knicks team that you don't think is that good, if the Knicks are able to overcome the Spurs, will that make you reconsider whether or not the Thunder just running it back is a good idea?
It would surprise me, but listen, you guys maybe disagree, or clearly you do. I think the Thunder win this series if they were healthy. So I think the Thunder would beat the Knicks if they were healthy.
Yeah,
and the Knicks are healthy minus this Mitchell Robinson pinky injury.
Yeah, and I think that if both teams were perfectly healthy, this series is evidence that I was wrong picking the Thunder the Spurs, because Dylan Harper was only himself for a handful of games. De'Aaron Fox was missed games and was never himself.
Thank you.
So if we're all of a sudden
at the end of the series, in Game 7, the Thunder were the less healthy team. In Game 7,
Danny, but they got the lead in the series. They were the healthier team the first 5 games, and that got them the lead. Then they were the less healthy team, and they lost it. I think it is. I don't know if they'll trade for Giannis. I agree with you. It's not a Sam Presti deal. Also, oddly, the Thunder, as of July 1st, are a second apron team. So it becomes very difficult.
Get rid of some of that money.
It becomes very difficult to trade.
If you trade one or both of those guys, maybe you can keep Hartenstein, who I think showed his value against a guy like Wemby in these playoffs.
Sam Presti this offseason, it's just add it to his name. Best GM in basketball, Sam Presti. This offseason, he's going to earn his money, because I don't think you just run it back. I think if they just run it back minus key contributors like Hartenstein and Dort, who would just be cap casualties, I do not know how you can think that's a recipe for being better. Live from New York, it's the show that 1/3 of them still thinks the Thunder are amidst a dynasty. Who said you got to win a title? It's just, you know what? Certainly, you know who might agree with him, Brew? Kenny Atkinson. It's first things first overtime.
Right. What was the analytic? Did they win that series?
Analytically, the Thunder
is
are
headed
playing
to
for the
New
title.
England. Who's happier today, Drake May or Kevin Wildes? Also, Wemby is headed to his first NBA Finals, and Brew might be more emotional about it than he is. And finally, Myles Garrett is headed to Hollywood. What does this mean for Cleveland, Matt Stafford, and the entire NFL? I am Nick Wright. Danny Parkins is there. Chris Broussard's there. Kevin Wildes will be back tomorrow. Also tomorrow, the opening of Club Superstar. But we start with the latest blockbuster trade. A.J. Brown's headed to the Patriots for 2028 first and a 2027 fifth. Some say Kevin Wildes is not here today because he was trying to help lubricate the trade, get it across the finish line. The Patriots say the wait is over with a sunglass guy emoji. Danny, is this a bigger deal for the Pats or for the Eagles?
For the Eagles. A.J. Brown is conservatively a top 10 receiver in football.
Yeah.
Right? Conservative.
Yeah.
And you got rid of him for a first-round pick, not this upcoming year, but 2 years from now. So maybe, and you and I disagree often on how
chemistry mattering, which is an odd thing to disagree with on this show.
On the chemistry show?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah.
By the way, we agree.
Yeah.
In sports television, it matters more than anything.
I think it matters in locker rooms. I think it matters in every workplace. I think being happy with your coworkers and being happy going to work matters across the board.
And I, generally speaking, in pro sports, don't believe that everybody agrees on everything or gets along in every way. So I want talent, and then that's on the coaches and the leaders on my team to figure it out. The Eagles got worse, and there's a lot of reporting that has come out around Jalen Hurts to suggest that he is not on the firmest of ground long term with the Eagles. So Jalen Hurts is in essence playing for his long-term future as a starter for the Philadelphia Eagles without his number one receiver. I love it for the Patriots, to be clear, but who does it matter more for, Brew? I would say the Eagles, because it has ramifications on the future of their quarterback.
Yeah, look, bigger impact. I mean, there's only one. If he has a bigger impact on the Patriots, they're winning the Super Bowl. You know, and I get it if you want to say over the next 3 years maybe. But so I think he'll be a good duo with the quarterback, Drake May. But I'm kind of feeling like the Eagles, and this is independent of the trade almost, I kind of feel like it's going to be a rough year for them. You know, like I like Dallas. I've said I like them to win the division. I like the Giants, although I'm starting to feel differently about them as we see stuff coming out. But I think this could be the year, independent of this trade, that there's some struggles. And so I think I just think people will tie some of that to A.J. Brown, which even if it's not because of that. And so I think the Eagles are going to take a step back.
Listen, I totally understand the move for the Patriots. He's on a good contract, especially because the bonus money's been paid. He's still a highly productive player. He has a relationship with Vrabel. Drake needs a legit number one receiver. We saw the year Stephon Diggs had last year, even though Diggs is not at this point in his career a legit number one receiver. So that makes sense. They paid a lot, but they didn't pay way too much, so I think all that's fine. Here's my question for you, Danny, because I know you think Howie Roseman's sharp.
Yeah.
And he's a good GM.
Pretty universally held opinion.
Yes. And A.J. Brown is healthy, and A.J. Brown is good, and A.J. Brown's on a good contract. And cap-wise, you know, the reason they had to wait so long was so it wasn't a $60 million dead cap hit, but it's still going to be $40 million spread out over 2 years. If the chemistry thing is overrated, why do they do it? Why did the Philadelphia Eagles know there's less talent on the team now? Yeah. So why would they do it?
Just because I think chemistry is over, it doesn't mean that in this spot they didn't realize we have to do it, and this is selling high on A.J. Brown, because you're not getting a first round.
But why do you think they felt they had to do it?
Probably because of what you've talked about and the locker room issues and all of that. I just don't believe that makes them better this year. In fact, I know that it will make them worse.
You don't know that
in terms of the talent in the locker room. They might win an extra game. But listen, and I understand the argument they had a mediocre passing game with A.J. Brown, so they could have a mediocre passing game without A.J. Brown. But your depth got worse. Your reliance on Devontae Smith increased. You lose Devontae Smith, your number one receiver now is Mekhi Lemon or Hollywood Brown or Dontavian Wicks. The talent is worse.
Yeah, there is less talent. I think in pro football in particular, talent can be one of the more overrated by the media traits. And I do not think that Jalen Hurts going into this critical year, because I agree with you on that front, this critical year of his career, you could have it be another year where it was going to be an ongoing saga about whether or not A.J. Brown's happy. I was asked recently by an Eagles fan what I thought about them this year, and it's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's my honest answer. I think they have the widest variance of any team in the league. I think they could be 14-3 and have the number one seed, and I think they could be 7-10 and Sirianni's fired the day after the season. I think they are maybe the only team in the league that I could see finishing with the league's best record, and I could see them finishing under 500. And so we'll see whether this is addition by subtraction. I think everybody thinks this is just addition for the Rams. Yeah. The shocking move of the day, the Browns are sending two-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the Rams. The package is for Jared Verse, a 2027 first, a 2028 second, a 2029 third. The Rams' only weakness last year, I would think, was their pass defense at the end of the season. You can look, this really shows it. The Rams' pass defense the defense as a whole, started the year off incredibly strong, fell off a cliff late. Sam Darnold carved them up. They now added Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Myles Garrett. We throw around SBOB a lot on this show. Brew, I'll go to you. Are those the only expectations now for the Los Angeles Rams?
Absolutely.
Truly Super Bowl or bust?
Anything else is an absolute failure, period. Now, again, we're barring injury.
Yeah.
Of course, if major
Stafford
players
got
get
hurt,
injuries, that's different. But, yeah, I mean, you only do this trade and give up future assets, give up a great young player like Jared Verse to win the Super Bowl. I mean, last year they were darn near as close as you can get. In the NFC Championship game, close loss. So it's like we are here to win the Super Bowl. McVay has already won one. Once you win one, anything else is a failure, especially when your team is still good. So that is the only expectation. I get it. You said earlier, if Myles Garrett goes there and for the next 5 years is fantastic and they don't win the Super Bowl, he individually will still be great. But this type of move is absolutely Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, they were the Super Bowl favorites who made a trade to just become slightly bigger Super Bowl favorites. So those are the expectations. How cool would it be to be a Rams fan? It's just a unique place in the football ecosystem. Like, I'm thrilled to be a Bears fan and root for Caleb. I know you've enjoyed rooting for Lamar. You're rooting for a modern NFL dynasty. None of us are turning in our fan card. But F them picks. Trade for Stafford, trade for Jalen Ramsey, do the Devontae Adams. Oh, our secondary's bad. Let's rebuild it on the fly. Trent McDuffie will give him a big contract. The Ty Simpson thing.
They're about the present.
Yeah, and the Ty Simpson trade, which I killed. I hated the logic for it because it's like, if you're all in for Stafford, you have to do things to help Stafford. Les Snead playing chess while I'm thinking about checkers because he's saying we're going to give up the future draft capital that we would use to get the Stafford replacement to get Myles Garrett, and we're going to take the draft pick that we have now from our last trade with Atlanta to take our quarterback of the future. So whether or not the Ty Simpson move works out, whether or not they win a Super Bowl here, they are just operating in a different way than the rest of the league operationally. It's really fun to watch, and yes, their expectations will be to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this really did inform my opinion on the Ty Simpson trade.
Of course.
And I truly believe they thought they knew this was potentially in the works when they drafted Ty Simpson. It makes it make a ton more sense that they said, we are not going to be, because Stafford just signed an extension, even if they expect Stafford to play for 2 more years, they were like, we're not going to have the ability to draft his replacement anytime soon, so we'll do it now. That was one takeaway. Another takeaway was we spent a little time. We all should have spent more time in recognizing Myles Garrett was being traded when the Browns moved that money around for no reason whatsoever. It didn't give them cap flexibility. There was no logical reason to do it other than it made trading him more palatable. And then they denied it, and he has a no trade deal. That was clearly what was coming here. I also think, yes, the expectation for the Rams is clearly to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But it is not necessarily just next year. I don't think Myles Garrett might be a final piece, but I think, and we talked about this off the air more than on the air, I think most people expect Myles Garrett to be awesome for the next 4 years. The next 5, you're going to hear
the Reggie White comp a lot as a guy who, if you're trading this much for a defensive end who's 30 years old and will turn 31 during the season, at the end of the season, Reggie White had 5 double-digit sack seasons in his 30s. They're putting him in the all-time freak of nature category who they expect to be dominant for a long, long time.
And Nick, remember, with your quarterback being 38. That's what adds more urgency to it as well. If if Stafford was 31,
100%.
I totally agree with you, but who knows what he'll be in 2 years.
The AFC disproportionately has the best quarterbacks in the league with questionable rosters around them, or at least rosters with question marks. The NFC, overwhelmingly, their best teams are these amazing rosters with some question marks at quarterback. And then there's the Rams that have the league MVP at quarterback and maybe now the best overall roster. All right. It would take trades like that for us not to lead. with this video just on a loop.
Yeah.
Spurs go on the road as underdogs and get it done. San Antonio is headed to their first finals since 2014. Wemby dropped 22-7, got the Western Conference Finals MVP along the way. Here he is after the game.
Winning the Larry O'Brien, it's a childhood dream. And having a real shot at it, having a chance, tangible chance at winning it, at realizing a dream, it's a chance. It's a lifetime chance, you never know when it's going to happen again. But it's, the day we win it, speaking for myself, it's going to be an amazing day.
Brew, the biggest reason the Spurs upset the Thunder?
I think they're just better. Now, slightly, the two teams are very closely matched, but I do think they're the better team. Their superstar is better. Their superstar played better. He's their top defensive players, Chet versus Wemby. Advantage Spurs. The Spurs, I think they're like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle, while not finished products, have more talent than a Caruso, a Dort. Even talent-wise, even more than a Jalen Williams, who didn't play, and A.J. Mitchell and these guys. They scored more than them, out-rebounded them in the series, shot a better percentage slightly, beat them twice on their home floor, including a Game 7, and beat them 8 out of 12 times they played this year. Like, they're better. It's just all the facts stack up to say they are the better team. Now, again, close, but they're better.
As long as we agree it's close. Like, I honestly, like,
it
was an 8-point game in Game 7, and yes, both teams were hurt along the way, but in Game 7, the Spurs were the significantly more healthy team, and it was still an 8-point game. So I believe that health ended up being the biggest reason why the Spurs ultimately won this. I believe that if both teams were playing with the full clip, the Thunder would have won. Obviously unanswerable, but
nobody. Here's the reason I really don't like that. Nobody's healthy ever at the end. I shouldn't say nobody. It is so incredibly rare for a team to be fully healthy at this point in the season. It's why winning championships is so special and so hard, and why the playoffs are their own thing. And the entire narrative around the Thunder is they should be the team most able to deal with injuries because of the depth. You called it their superpower all year. Their only player, like A.J. Mitchell had an awesome season. A.J. Mitchell makes what Bronny makes. I'm not...
Except he was their second leading scorer in the playoffs.
Danny, so he...
He is not like Bronny.
But here's the thing. Their only key guy going in, the guy that you rely on going into the year that was out, was Jalen Williams. He was out for the majority of the year. The reason A.J. Mitchell had this increased usage was because he was filling that void. So that is not, they were missing a primary creator,
and then
which
his
was
primary
two
replacement.
guys. Right, they were missing that spot.
Twice.
That should not
But you act
be.
like the Spurs weren't injured.
Yeah, I don't.
By Game 7, they were the healthy
But
team.
it may have only gotten to a Game 7 because De'Aaron Fox was out for the first 2 games. Dylan Harper was hampered for several of the games.
Well, then listen, the second piece of it, because to me health was the biggest piece of it, but the second piece of it was the best player who was there for the Thunder may as well have not been.
The second best player.
The second best player.
Yeah.
Sorry. Other than SGA, the second best player for the Thunder. He may as well have not been there.
But why wasn't he there? It wasn't like he just didn't show up. Wemby made him not show up.
See, mentally, I agree with that, but he wasn't even guarded. They didn't even trust him to guard Wemby. Brew, he's passing up open threes. He's not even taking attempts when Wemby isn't even on the floor. And so, listen, part of that is the mental edge that Wemby has over him, no doubt. But Chet Holmgren needs to look in a mirror and figure out what he can do. I'm not expecting you to outplay Wemby, but you have to have your presence. You're the second best defensive player in basketball and third team All-NBA, and he took 0 shots in the second half.
Yeah,
that was a huge piece of the reason why the Spurs upset them also.
Yeah,
if he scores 10 points.
And listen, the other piece of it is that Sam Presti's the best GM in basketball. He's the best GM in basketball. He's the best GM in basketball. R.C. Buford in the Spurs front office might be like, hey, can we have something to say about that? Because Champagny was up for the moment. Vassell was up for the moment. Yep. They got Champagny very similarly to how the Thunder got McCain. And actually both were from the Sixers, by the way. Tough listen, you don't get credit for drafting Dylan Harper 2 and Castle 4 as much, and certainly you don't get credit for Wemby 1. I get that piece of it. Cornette was a great signing. Who was more impactful this series, Cornette or Hartenstein? It's close, in different ways. Hartenstein had his moments, also had his rough moments. Cornette, obviously, was valuable, maybe the biggest play of the game that game. And Cason Wallace showed up, Jay Will showed up, and the guy Danny wants to talk about, he showed up as well, which was nice because he hadn't prior to that in the series, so we'll talk SGA here.
Thank you.
So SGA drops a game-high 35. It's not enough. Shea called his season a failure despite winning league MVP. This series, games 1 through 6, he was having the worst series of his career as a star. Game 7, he was excellent. Danny, what did you make of Shea's Game 7 performance?
I thought he was nothing short of spectacular. And I am just very curious. A couple of historians of the NBA, a couple of guys who have been outraged by the narrative around him.
Not the narrative.
No, the flopping, the falling, purveyors of the narrative, shapers of the narrative. He is a throwback shot maker from the mid-range. That game looked a lot like Kobe to me. Michael Jordan, turnarounds, fadeaways,
he was
footworks,
awesome.
shot making, hands in his face. I'm just wondering, is the respect level still there for you guys from Shea? That game was unbelievable.
Yeah, I never lost respect for him. He's a great player. I don't like the excessive flopping and flailing and falling and all that, but I've never not respected his game, and he made some really tough shots. I will say, when you say nothing short of spectacular, I do think he fizzled a little. He had 4 points in the decisive fourth quarter. Cason Wallace carried him. He only took 1 shot in the last 4 minutes. He was exhausted. He wasn't getting help, but still, he faded a bit. But he was great. I mean, he
was spectacular
the reason
in
they
Game
lost
7.
by any stretch.
If he had been better earlier in the series, maybe it doesn't go to 7. In my opinion, we can't spend the lead up to a playoffs and during the playoffs and into a series talking about if they make the finals, he's on this list with Bron and Jordan. If they win the championship, he's on this list with Bron and Jordan. And then in a series where they're up 3-2, where by his own account, is not playing by eye test, numbers, not narratives. His own account played very poorly by MVP standards the first 6 games. It was, going into this game, the 3rd lowest field goal percentage of any MVP in any playoff series ever. And then he has an awesome, I said that second quarter is one of the best quarters of his whole career, game in a loss. Be like, that's why he's special. I don't buy. I do think he's special. I do think he is a deserving, but it's a straw man to act like we didn't say that. He's everybody
not on the Jordan Kobe level.
He's not. And by the way, it is also, this is the right result historically speaking, because it would have been odd for him to be on all those lists with Jordan and Kobe or Jordan and LeBron or whatever it was. He is a great, great player. That is, as I have said many times, and this is a compliment, not an insult, on the level with Dwayne Wade. And that was a great Dwayne Wade-esque playoff performance. He is not on the level of that inner circle Hall of Famer. Maybe he will be one day, but he is not yet. And one of the reasons I liked that Game 7 so much, and we have 1 minute left here, I'll ask you, because you think the flopping's a false flag. You think it's mass psychosis. So do you think in Game 7, he looked, forget if the shots went in or not, did you think he acted and looked the same as he did in the previous games?
He fell less.
Yes. He fell considerably less. Yep. And there was one play that he's kind of being criticized for, the drawing the foul on the three. I think that's smart. I think if you get a guy off his feet and you want to, instead of, he could have leaned in and taken a long two. Instead, he's like, I'm going to lean to the side, get the three. That's fine. Guys have done that for a long time. But he wasn't flailing about, and he got an awesome 35, and it just wasn't enough. So, yeah, he went out on his shield in Game 7, but it wasn't enough leading up to it. And the Thunder dynasty is now just a one-off championship.
And they'll be co-favorites next year.
Well, I don't know about that.
Who do you think will be the favorite going into next year?
The Spurs.
Okay, well then there's not co-favorites coming up. Rams Super Bowl round with Myles Garrett. I don't know about that. And the Knicks are going to beat the Spurs.
Welcome back to First Things First. Greg Jennings hanging out. We start breaking news out of Philadelphia. Eagles trading wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick. So Howie Roseman does get his first rounder, but he's going to have to wait a year, and a 2027 fifth. Speculation on this deal happening, of course, has been going on for weeks with June 1st circled on the calendar so that they could spread out the cap hit. All right, let's focus in now on expectations, Greg, for the Patriots, who, of course, made it to the Super Bowl but got blown out. Do you buy the Patriots' return to a Super Bowl with A.J. Brown?
Look, it's going to be tough for them to return to the Super Bowl. Just knowing the guys that will be back in uniform in the AFC. Obviously,
listen, Super Bowl or the field, it's always smart to take the field, right? Like, sure.
Of course. But this team, I don't think that they're far off. Like, I'm not one of those that are subscribing to the idea that was a one shot, that was their chance, they can't get back there. This team can definitely represent the AFC. And this is a step in the right direction, getting more depth, a bona fide number one receiver. We kind of all knew that this was coming out and going to be the play for them. And it solidifies who they are going to be offensively. Like, they're a team that can run the ball really well already. And so anytime A.J. Brown has had extremely productive seasons, he's been on an offense where they feature the run and you have to guard him man-to-man, and you can't really help. And he just beats you up down the field and in the intermediate. So he'll have the opportunity to do that. He'll get a bunch of targets. He'll be featured in this offense. I really like this move for young Drake May, and with some of the other additions, obviously getting Romeo Doubs. So you have depth at that position now.
So it's an arms race in the AFC, and the Patriots have the fourth best odds to win the conference behind the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs. So they are right there. Obviously, they have to go through the Bills in their own division. My prediction, more so than they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, is going to be that A.J. Brown's going to set a career high for targets. His career high in targets is 158. It's a lot of targets. It was a couple of years ago. But it just feels to me like, give me the damn ball. Like, we've seen it from so many receivers. Like, he is going to look at the difference in passing ability from Jalen Hurts to Drake May and feel like he has been just freed and unlocked in so many ways. Jalen Hurts is a great winner and a great leader and rises to the occasion in the playoffs, but we have talked about his limitations in terms of the intermediate passing game, which is where A.J. Brown eats, and some of his ability to not get, why isn't the passing game going? I don't think that'll be the case in New England. I think Drake May will be able to get him the ball at all three levels, and he should have a statistically satisfying season. And it's going to be interesting to see what he says about it, because he's the guy who's talked about, and I'm paraphrasing, after they won the Super Bowl, man, I thought it would be more enjoyable. Like, I like dominating that guy opposite me. It feels like A.J. Brown is going to enjoy this upcoming season. Even if they win less, he'll enjoy it more, because I think he's going to have every opportunity to fill up the stat sheet.
So I think he will have every opportunity to fill up the stat sheet. I don't think he will have his career-setting
150-plus targets?
150-plus targets. I don't. They spread the ball around. This is what this offense does. Drake May does a great job of doing that. I do believe in terms of getting back to having contested opportunities, and we talking about the lack of separation and this and that. I think a large part of that had to do with the guy under center and Jalen Hurts not trusting, that I can throw that ball still to A.J. Brown. Now he's in a situation where I believe Drake May will make that throw because of understanding who he is and trusting that he has a big enough arm and he's accurate enough to where my player is still open because I know that individual player. Again, not trying to throw shots at Jalen Hurts, but there's just two totally different quarterbacks. So I do think the productivity will be better. But the targets, I don't see him getting 150-plus targets because you have still a lot of options on that offense.
All right, so now let's go to the other blockbuster trade from earlier today. Two-time Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, is a Ram. And the Browns are getting Jared Verse, a 2027 first, 2028 second, and a 2029 third. So a massive haul for the 30-year-old edge rusher. Myles Garrett, of course, had the single-season sack record this year on a Browns team that won just 5 games. And the Browns general manager Andrew Berry came out and said the decision became clear, although our emotions were muddled as we embark on a new era of Browns football with a young core and a replenished asset base. We felt this move was important to our transition. So, are you shocked that the Browns finally decided to pull the trigger and move on from Myles Garrett?
I am shocked that they did it. I think it was the best decision. I'm shocked because a lot of times when you have a franchise that hasn't had success, they hold on to what makes their fan base feel good. And that would be, in this case, Myles Garrett. And knowing he's in a position where you clearly could get a haul for him,
yep,
and you got that. And not only did you just get the haul, you got a player that is younger that is trending to be just, I don't want to say just as productive, but extremely productive.
He's
like two-time Pro Bowler,
yep,
like in his second year, Defensive Rookie of the Year in year 1, the defensive face of that team in the Rams, his first 2 years. So, like, they got a bona fide pass rusher and obviously future picks. But for the Browns, you sometimes get too tied into the emotional aspect of, well, he's the face of the franchise. This will look bad. They would think we're throwing in the towel. But to be able to get a pass rush and the haul for him, yeah, this was a good move for the Browns.
Jared Verse is great. I think from the Browns' standpoint, they get to say, we kept Myles Garrett, and he had his signature moment as a Brown. He set the all-time single-season sack record as a Brown. So when they retire his number and put him in the Ring of Honor, and he goes from Cleveland to Canton, just a few miles down the road, and he'll be a Brown for life. They'll talk about he'll retire as a Brown, all those things. When they play that highlight package, when his number goes up there, a lot of it will be from this season and the celebration of him setting the sack record. And they got a haul for him. So I think that they get to have like the feel goods for the fan and for the all-time. I mean, he's one of the 3 greatest players in the history of their franchise, 2 greatest players in the history of their franchise. And so for the fact that they had that feel-good moment and they got to kind of reset their timeline, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I've been thinking about it all day. This news broke not too long before we came on the air. If they said we need to get a young pass rusher and a ton of draft picks, this might have been the only team they could have.
That's what I was.
Yeah, but I kept thinking about it. I was like, who else?
Nobody else.
Because Jared Verse is unique in that it's not like trading for Micah Parsons where you have to immediately turn around and pay him.
Correct.
Right. Jared Verse is cheap this year. He's cheap next year. And then you can just pay him on the option the year after that. So he is cost controlled for 3 more seasons, 2 at a very cheap rate. Now, that 2027 first-round pick, you have to slot that as like the 30th pick in the draft. You're right. They're the Super Bowl favorites. You're not expecting to get a premium thing. But if the Browns come out of this and they use a couple of those picks that they got to maneuver in next year's draft to move up and get their quarterback, they will look at this as we traded Myles Garrett for Jared Verse and the quarterback of the future.
Correct.
And then you can't say that that's not selling high on a 30-year-old pass rusher when you weren't going to win anything either way.
And knowing what they were able to do in this year's draft to kind of bolster who they are going to be
People think they're stacking good drafts.
They're definitely stacking really good drafts.
All right, Greg. Pulled a marathon today.
A little bit.
A block in regulation all the way through the B block in the OT. But coming up, Nick Friedel. Oh, and you're coming back a little bit later.
A little bit.
So I was saying goodbye to you for good.
Go on,
back to hoops, then back to Greg. It's a busy day here on the OT. Welcome back to the OT. Senior NBA writer with The Athletic, Nick Friedel, hanging out. We're starting with Wemby and the Spurs, which makes sense. They're going to the finals. He's pretty good. 22 points, a trip to the finals, first year in the playoffs, eliminate the defending champs. Here's Victor Wembanyama after the game on the accomplishment.
I can go through hurdles that I didn't know those hurdles could get so high. This is the best basketball on the planet that's being played right now. And the crazy thing is, maybe I'm crazy for that, but I want to do that 15, 20 more times. Let's hope it doesn't become an addiction. Maybe it is already.
I mean, something tells me we're not going to hold that quote against him like LeBron's, not 6, not 7. It's like 15 or 20 more times. It's pretty great, though. Nick, thank you for being with us. What did Wemby and the Spurs prove in that Game 7 win?
Danny, if there was any question for anybody, if this guy is the next face and the guy that the NBA should build around as a whole, he answered it. You go into OKC against the defending champs, you put on that kind of performance in Game 7, you earn all the accolades that are coming your way. This is the present and the future of the league. And if you're the NBA and you're Adam Silver, you have to be ecstatic that this guy delivered in this moment and set up the future of the NBA against the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden and the pandemonium that will ensue. But specific to the Spurs, this is a fantastic moment for that team and the entire league that was looking for somebody to be excited about after LeBron and Steph.
I cannot imagine the conversations in the league offices. They're like, oh my God,
yes,
Wemby against the Knicks. Yeah, it's going to be remarkable. And you and I are along the same lines here. And I can say this because he is a dear friend of mine and Colin Cowherd. But you see the clip sometimes that goes around of Colin where he gets mocked for. It's one of the great age-like milk takes in the history of takes when he's like, when he saw Ben Simmons play and he was like, hey, LeBron, we're good, bro. You can go. It's just one of the all-time misfire takes. It honestly felt like that with Wemby, of like, he will never be LeBron. I'm not trying to compare eras or compare players or anything like that. But it does feel like, Tirico said at the end of the broadcast, it's Wemby's world. Like, it's just, the league has been passed to him. And if you look at the list of guys he joined in terms of a young scorer to lead his team, youngest player to lead his team in points per game and make a trip to the finals, it's LeBron, Kobe, Duncan, Shaq, and he best LeBron by 8 days in terms of making it. But he is the best defensive player in the world and the leading scorer and 22 years old, and he just got to the finals. And he's talking about doing it for 15 or 20 years. And I'm like, yeah, you might. It feels like anything's in play for this kid.
Danny, on top of everything you just said, he's interesting.
Very.
The NBA desperately needs interesting personalities.
He's crazy competitive.
Guys that aren't afraid to share their opinion, that aren't afraid to make guys play hard in the All-Star game. He is, in that regard, the total package because the player he is, he'll get even better in time. He'll become even more comfortable in the spotlight. But when you give those type of answers and you play at that level, you're going to make people interested in what you do day to day. And in that regard, the NBA has desperately needed some fresh blood because SGA is an awesome player. We don't know much about him still, and he's been in the spotlight for so long. This is a guy that can make everybody around him better on every different number of levels for the league, and it's a really good day for somebody who has lived up to the hype that surrounded his arrival.
And we know Pop's influence on the team, and Mitch Johnson seems like a great coach, and then there's R.C. Buford and all of that. But just from the game specifically, it feels like they all play above their age, like Dylan Harper's poise and Castle's intensity and Wemby's. It feels like it rubs off on all of them. Every time the Thunder made a run in that game, because they did, they kept coming.
Yeah.
The Spurs didn't just respond by weathering the storm by hitting a shot. They immediately went on a run of their own and extended the league back out to 8 points, 9 points, 12 points, whatever it was. They just have a resiliency that seems to be reflected in their star. It's remarkably impressive, and we'll see if they can get 4 more wins against the Knicks. But let's move on to the Thunder side. SGA played like an MVP, 35-point night in Game 7. No back-to-back shot for the Thunder. A ton of questions for their offseason, though. SGA, he's passing the buck on those questions to someone he says is more qualified. Take a listen.
I will give zero input. I will let Sam Presti, the greatest GM ever, do his job.
All right, Nick Friedel, what moves do you want to see the Thunder make this offseason?
Mr. Perkins, that was one of the best answers I've heard from any NBA player, star at that level in a long, long time.
Pretty smart.
The self-awareness to say, hey, I know what I think, but we have the best GM in the game. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I thought that was impressive on its own. The move to make, though, if you're Sam Presti and you're the Thunder, there's one guy, and his name is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
It's not going to happen.
But they have every pick and every piece and every asset that you would need in order for it to make happen. And, Danny, if you get Giannis, you're pairing him up against Wemby for the next however many years he wants to stay there. So I think he fits. If he can stay healthy, he is the answer. And in so many different ways, this is a rivalry the NBA is needed, but this is the guy that you're bringing in to slow down the one guy who you know can beat you. So I think that there are a lot of different reasons why it would work, with the most important one being Presti has accumulated all these different things that he could fire at Milwaukee and say, let's make something happen.
So they obviously have the resources to, I mean, listen, if you want to include Jalen Williams and Chet, and you can win any trade if you're Presti and you want to cash in your chips. I don't think that sounds like a Presti move.
Why not?
I think it gets them much older. Giannis is an injury risk. So you get older, you actually get more expensive somehow, even though the Chet max is kicking in next year. Giannis, obviously, the most expensive contracts you can have. And also an injury risk. And it feels all in. SGA is 27. You've got J-Dub and Chet and Mitchell and McCain and Kaysen Wallace, all 25 and under. Plus your picks. You're probably losing Lou Dort, and I'll even concede that you're probably losing Hartenstein to deal with the second apron stuff. That's going to be a problem. But you've got 3 picks in this loaded draft. I think they will trade up into the top 10. My guess is Sam Presti will nail that top 10 pick.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Odds are he's going to do a good job there. I think that they will try to tinker somewhere on the roster. But if Sam Presti's the best GM in the sport, and he deemed SGA worthy of a supermax, and Chet and J-Dub is worthy of maxes, and they're all signed through 2031, and Chet was a 0 in this series, and J-Dub missed 4 of 7, and in one of the games he played 10 minutes in Game 6 and was essentially a 0, and they were 8 points away from winning Game 7. I know everyone's going to say the Thunder or the Spurs are going to get better. He will look at it and say, why can't we get better also with all of that young assets? I think this is like the Rocky franchise. I think this was Rocky 1. And I think they are going to run it back. Rocky didn't fire Apollo, or fire Mick because he lost to Apollo. You run it back. You trust the people in your corner. I really butchered that reference. And then you go forward. I think we are going to see Thunder Spurs in the Western Conference playoffs for years to come. And I think Presti will tinker, not overhaul.
I agree with you, but my argument back would be if you know you're going against Wemby for years and years, for all those Rockies movies, you have the guy in front of you in Milwaukee that you can plug in and say,
do you think anyone's
slow him down.
Do you think anyone, though, is a Wemby stopper?
I don't think stopper's too strong. There is an antidote that you can slow him down with. And there is your guy right there. Because he has played at the highest possible level.
Yes, he has.
I agree with you on the injury concerns. It is what would scare me. When he's on the floor, though, Danny, he's still incredible. And he's better than everybody else you named, aside from SGA. So if you put SGA and that guy, when he's healthy out there, nobody is beating them at all.
Do you think the Thunder would have won this series if they were healthy?
I do.
So do I. And
I know we were both wrong.
I know. Well, no, they weren't healthy. They weren't healthy. You and I know you can't assume health. I'm just saying maybe next year it's the Spurs, who are a little bit more nicked up in Game 7. I don't think that the Thunder are that far away from the Spurs, and I don't think they're going to come out of it and look like they
don't, but you're only playing one guy now. That's where I am sitting. You're playing against one guy and trying to beat one guy instead of a team full of young players who will get better. That Wemby guy is unlike anything we've ever seen, and Giannis can answer the bell there.
Chet Holmgren needs to figure out a way then to be useful in that spot, because he's the second best defensive player in the sport according to the voters. He's over 7 feet tall, and they didn't trust him to even guard Wemby for any moment in time. So I would think maybe the improvement would have to be internal as opposed to external, but it should be a fascinating offseason in the NBA. Nick Friedel, thrilled you're in New York. You'll be seeing more of him on the show this week. But coming up, 2 huge trades in the NFL today. We'll get into it coming up on the OT. Breaking news on top of breaking news. The Eagles trade wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Patriots. And then in the stunner of the day, the Browns have traded 2-time Defensive Player of the Year and franchise icon Myles Garrett to the Rams. Greg Jennings back out here. What was the bigger trade today, A.J. Brown or Myles Garrett?
It was the Myles Garrett trade. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's
both
not
fun and both interesting, though.
Absolutely, but the Myles Garrett trade kind of comes out of the blue, and you get Jared Verse in that trade. Like, that's just a blockbuster trade.
I think the trade compensation shows that it's clearly Myles Garrett. The caliber of the player shows that it's Myles Garrett. A.J. Brown is fascinating because of what it means for a team that was just in the Super Bowl and the Patriots,
absolutely,
and a quarterback who is one of the faces of the league in Jalen Hurts. But the Myles Garrett trade is as all-in of a move as you can make. And I know I said it earlier, there's 31 teams, and then there's how the Rams do business.
Man.
Like, just not caring about draft picks, the Ty Simpson pick, this move, like, they just operate completely differently, and nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, and it's worked out. It's worked out.
You cannot argue with the results.
So, look, Les Snead knows something that no one else knows. Or
get really good players
at
premium positions and figure out the rest later.
No matter what.
It's like when you say it out loud like that, it's like trade for all the good players at the premium positions. Maybe Les Snead is onto something.
We'll see.
We're back tomorrow. More First Things First. Thanks for being with us.